wages could be garnished. There's a lien on my property, and the lien on my property will be probably for the next 10 years. And I'm 61. I'm a type A diabetic, so I have health issues. And how much longer am I going to work? And the amount owed to the IRS now, because of the penalties and taxes, is $46,000.
We haven't even gotten paperwork from the bank on the final foreclosure. But I expect that it's going to be a big capital gains bill. I don't know how we're going to pay it, if we're going to pay it.
I was going through a divorce at the time, and most of my retirement packet had to be separated 50% like the state of California requires. So there was a significant tax bill on that. UCSF wasn't withholding enough taxes on an annual basis. So with those two combined bills, I ended up owing about $5,000.
I believe in 2012 we had 1.5 million bankruptcy filers in the United States of Chapter 7 personal bankruptcies, not including business bankruptcy.
I'm Catherine Iranthi. I go by Kate, and my office is called Iranthi Law Firm. I represent debtors, and mainly consumer debtors and people having debt collection issues.
My name is Deborah Bell Fisher, and I'm a tax director and CPA.
Well, my name is Eric Gravel. I'm a bankruptcy attorney, and all I do is bankruptcy law, Chapter 7, 13, 11.
People come to see me with problems because they've either gotten sick, somebody got sick, or spouse, or the person themselves, or they lost their job, or it's a combination of things, and things just quickly spiral. Our whole economy is kind of built on not much savings, living to the max, and it's all crumbling.
The vast majority of our clients are homeowners who either have rental properties or small businesses.
There's two types of clients, really. Clients who, well, you could say Chapter 7 clients and Chapter 13 clients. So Chapter 7 clients are those who usually don't own a home and have credit card debt or medical bills or tax debt.
Okay, so in a situation where you have a business owner who had been doing well when the economy was doing well and found themselves in a situation where their business has been scaled back or went out of business as a result of a downturn in the economy, they are many times faced with an old tax bill because, you know, while they were being prosperous, they may not have realized all of the tax consequences that come with a prosperous business, because you have two types of taxes that are due. You have income taxes and you have Social Security taxes. And so if they haven't been involved with a lot of planning, they may get hit with a bill and not be, a lot of my clients I find, not a lot of them, but there are a number of them that have come to me who found themselves with these large tax bills and trying to figure out what to do. And then they find themselves in a position where their business has spiraled downward and they're saying, what do I do now?
If somebody only has what is called non-priority debts due to the IRS, meaning old debts, old tax debts, Chapter 7 is an excellent choice. So you have to wait 3 years to discharge those debts. So you may have, like you say, other creditors knocking on your door.
If you owe the IRS money, there is a 10-year statute of limitations. If you owe the bank a credit card or something, it's 4 years in California. It varies from state to state, but the IRS is 10 years. Some people don't even know that that exists, that if your taxes are so old, if you're trying to pay off taxes from the year 2000, if you filed a return, that's beyond the statute of limitations. They don't have a right to collect it anymore.
Most of the time, people owe several years worth of tax debt. So, you know, if you owe $10,000, $20,000 for each of 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, then my job is to tell people, look, if you wait until April 16, 2014, you'll be able to discharge an extra $20,000. And then the choice is is the clients, and sometimes people just want to get it over with, and they don't want to wait any longer. And the reason is oftentimes that they have other creditors. And in California, Chapter 7 is, I believe, 80% of the bankruptcy cases.
The worst thing people can do is not file a return because they don't have the money to pay. You can't bankrupt on a tax debt if you haven't filed a return. The statute of limitations for the IRS doesn't run. All kinds of bad things happen, really, basically. You're much better off filing it, can't pay, working out an arrangement, talking to them, doing something, and it starts the time period running. A foreclosure sale and a bankruptcy sale are different in that a foreclosure sale isn't in a bankruptcy. The federal court has nothing to do with it. The lender uses the state law to take back their secured property. You can't pay it. In California, they have non-judicial foreclosures, which is that to say they don't go to court. There's a very streamlined process. They have to give you notice, you get the letters, they sell it on the courthouse steps, that's it. The benefit to that is they usually don't go after the homeowner for any deficiencies. They get what they get at the sale. It doesn't matter if you make any money off a foreclosure sale or not. If the bank sells it for less than you owe them, which is likely, they will issue a 1099 for the difference. So you have the same tax liability problem and the same remedies. If, on the other hand, it's sold in bankruptcy, then the actual trustee of the bankruptcy estate will sell the house. And before they distribute anything to the bank, they will pay the taxes. The taxes are a priority debt in bankruptcy. So you go through that process and you won't have any tax liability.
In general, IRS taxes forgiven debt. And not only do they, in general, tax forgiven debt, there are exceptions and exclusions, but in general, it's tax. Then you have to do a computation to find out, is there an applicable gain? And so I have clients who come in and they've said, oh, I've had my house foreclosed. They didn't contact me because they didn't realize there could be a tax consequence. And they're devastated because they find out that not only did they have their house foreclosed on, but now they have a tax bill that's coming along with it. We
have a lot of clients that come here and they owe $20,000, $30,000, or $40,000 in IRS or franchise tax board debt.
What happens when you have a single individual that doesn't have a family, the tax hit for them tends to be even harder because they don't have as many avenues. You know, they're not, with respect to the earned income credit and other options available to them. One of the things that would be available to a business owner or an individual, if you find yourself with a huge tax bill that you know you don't have the ability to pay, is through the Offer and Compromise program.
Offer and Compromise is actually a great option since since the IRS updated their code in March of last year, because they're much more favorable to the taxpayers now. And what it is you list all your assets. It's a complicated form and a formula, and you list out everything for the IRS, and you say basically, I owe you this much money. I owe you $50,000. But based on the lack of assets that I have and the fact that I make very little money, this is what I could reasonably be expected to pay, and you make an offer for that amount. It takes about a year for the IRS to process that, and it can toll the 3-year period. So that while they're waiting and processing that Offer and Compromise, it stops the time from running both the statute of limitations as well as the time that they might be eligible for bankruptcy.
In the end, there's going to be a negotiation process where you're interacting with the IRS and you're talking about the more intangible things like what your financial position is, why you're not going to be able to earn the type of money, what your age is, why you're not going to be able to pay the tax bill. Whatever your circumstances are, that's what occurs during the negotiation process. While the mechanical part of it is a review of your financial situation, there's some intangible things that IRS is going to be looking at. And so they're going to try to figure out what's your skill level, what's your education, what are your chances of recovering, getting another job, and they're going to factor some of that stuff into their decision.
If in fact someone is in a situation where they don't have enough money, they don't have enough money to even pay $25 a month. You've got to pay your rent, you've got to drive your car, you're entitled to have medical insurance, medical care, eat food. The IRS doesn't expect that you pay them and live in a box. So you can talk to the IRS, and sometimes you can get a deferment. Usually it'll be a year at a time.
Chapter 7 is called a liquidation bankruptcy, meaning you liquidate all, you get rid of all your liability in one quick shot. You have $60,000 in debt, credit card debt. You are below a certain level of income. You file, and your debts are all discharged within 3 months of filing, and there's no repayment plan of any kind. And that applies to people with middle income and lower, and people with not too many assets. You're allowed to have some assets in the Chapter 7, but not. You're allowed to have approximately $28,000 in cars, cash, checking accounts, and that type of stuff. So, and again, if the debt is old enough, we can discharge it in bankruptcy, and it's not a very difficult process. So this is a common situation. $18,000 in IRS debt, $6,000 in franchise tax board debt, $40,000 to $60,000 in credit card debt. This is a very, very common situation.
The Bankruptcy Code could be changed, but it's not very likely to include tax liability immediately. Right now, it is at least dischargeable, and I don't, usually there's things that can be done in that 3-year period to make it work over that time period, such as the small installment payments, or getting into a status where you're just not they don't collect. The IRS won't collect for a period of time.
I am sure the reason that this 3-year waiting period was initially thought of was to make sure that people would not take advantage of that, just owing taxes and then immediately filing bankruptcy. So the waiting period is kind of a buffer zone to make sure that people don't take advantage of the Bankruptcy Code. But the reality is that a lot of people nowadays would not take advantage of that. It's just they're in a situation where they can't really afford to pay the IRS because of what happened to them.
Another way I should say that that families can be assisted with respect to the laws that are in place on the taxability portion of foreclosed properties is to have a better education outreach program where either through when there's some type of trigger that indicates that this person may be at risk, where there's an outreach where someone goes out and says, this could be the potential tax consequence, this is what we have that can help you, this is what's available to you. And so I don't see that going on a lot. People are just kind of caught off guard. They're behind the ball on it. And so if there's a way that they can find out about this information a little bit more in advance, it would be really helpful for families.
Debt is just debt, but once you end up getting any kind of debt relief or for debt forgiven, it becomes income. So people sell their house, and a foreclosure is treated the same way as a short sale, is treated the same way as if you just walk away from it. The bank will take a certain amount of money, and if they say, okay, fine, we'll accept $200,000 instead of the $300,000 you owe us, you're going to get a 1099 from them that you're going to get taxed. The IRS is going to tax you on that money. All of a sudden, something that was a debt becomes income, and people don't realize that, and they don't plan for that. And I wish that people would get some advice before they make any decisions. Not advice from a realtor, but advice from an attorney, an accountant, someone who really knows what's going to happen legally and financially. I think it would be fair if the law was changed so that people were only taxed on money that they actually made from the sale of a house. That would certainly make more sense than taxing people on some fictional increase in money that they never realized.
So there's people that understand the process of bankruptcy very well. They're well informed, they're prepared, and they treat it like a business move, basically. And then there's people that are extremely distraught.
I mean, I see people devastated because they worked their whole lives. They come in here, especially men, they feel like they're the breadwinners and they've tried so hard, and now they're losing their house through no fault of their own. Not because they've been out lavishly spending or flying to Europe or taking jets, but just because they made a miscalculation or things didn't turn out the way they thought they would.